The concentration camps operated by the Third Reich were among the most horrifying entities in the records of human history, with Auschwitz being the most infamous of the camps. It first welcomed customers in the year 1940 and was eventually freed by the Soviet Army in 1945. It could be found in Poland, approximately 43 kilometers west of Krakow. During those years, millions of individuals were made to endure the cruelest forms of torture, and large-scale killings were carried out, the likes of which continue to shock people to this day due to the extraordinary brutality they entail. Women accounted for 2 million of the total 6 million Jewish lives that were lost during the Holocaust. Between the years 1941 and 1945, when Adolf Hitler was in power in Germany, Jewish women were either incarcerated in Nazi concentration camps or had to flee the nation in order to avoid being arrested by the Nazis. During the Holocaust, many Jewish women were subjected to various forms of sexual abuse and torture, including rape, unexpected pregnancies, forced abortions, medical experimentation and/or examination, and sterilization. These tactics occurred frequently and were a contributing factor to the abuses that occurred. It is commonly believed that the concentration camps were not as terrible as they actually were, yet many women held the misguided belief that they could use the camps to struggle for their freedom from the ghettos. 1. Escaping the concentration camp of Auschwitz. There were a few cases in which inmates were successful in evading capture and escaping from Auschwitz. Kazimierz Spichowski, who had been arrested in 1942 for attempting to join the Polish resistance, made the most amazing escape. He had been held for trying to join the resistance. He, together with 2 other buddies, hatched a daring strategy in the hopes of evading capture in the concentration camp. They were able to avoid raising suspicion by stealing firearms and SS uniforms and acting as though they were Nazi officers. When a soldier approached them to find out what they were up to, they got into a car and drove off in the direction of the exit. Kazimierz yelled commands at him in German, informing him that he was his superior and that they needed to make way for them. Kazimier's orders were in German. As amazing as it may sound, they opened the door for them without asking any questions, and the party was able to successfully escape from hell as a result of their quick thinking. 2. Capability in the ring. Because of his skill as a boxer, Szalamo Arauch, a Jewish Greek who was deported to Auschwitz in 1943, along with his entire family, was able to survive his time in the concentration camp. Szalamo was a professional boxer, and the Nazis made him fight other prisoners 3 times a week. This meant that he had to fight for his life every time he stepped into the ring. The losers were executed or sent to the gas chambers, and the victors were rewarded with additional food rations in accordance with a route. The losers were executed or sent to the gas chambers. Officers of the SS were looking for prisoners who were skilled in combat at the time, so that they might stage fighting competitions just for amusement purposes. During his time in Auschwitz, he got into more than 200 fights and won all but 2 of them. He was a champion throughout. However, despite his liberation from the extermination center in 1945, he was unable to save his family from the fate that awaited them at the center. 3. Escape. The terrifying Nazi order stated that 10 prisoners would be executed for every prisoner who managed to escape. Because of this restriction, the administrators who worked in the concentration camps became enraged each time someone managed to flee from Auschwitz. They considered that this was a stain on their honor, and that an exemplary punishment needed to be inflicted in order to ensure that the other prisoners would not attempt to replicate their behavior. Survivor Gajonik Francis Sek remembers it in this manner, according to him. An SS colonel made the announcement that 10 of us would be put to death the following morning, and the colonel chose me to be one of the 10 people to be put to death. Francis was locked up in a cell and left to starve and thirst to death, but he managed to escape. They promptly sounded the alarm when one of our friends didn't react to the guard's roll call during one of the nights when it was required. The security officials used each and every one of their equipment. The area was searched by patrols after they were dispatched. That evening, we made our way back to the barracks, trembling with fear since we knew what was waiting for us there. 4. The righteous individual. Only one member of the SS was judged not guilty of the crimes committed at Auschwitz when the case was prosecuted in 1947. Hans Munk, who served as a member of the scientific team led by Dr. Joseph Mengele in the concentration camp from 1943 until 1945, was affectionately referred to by the inmates as the Good Man. While he was there, Munch refused to take part in the process of choosing which prisoners would be taken to the gas chambers, and he tried all in his power to stop the execution of the detainees. He believed that the way prisoners were treated was harsh, and after the war, he fought to improve the quality of the food rations that were given to prisoners. 5. Research in the scientific field. The fact that the pharmaceutical corporation Bayer was participating in these operations is unknown to the vast majority of consumers. The corporation had been one of the most significant financial backers of Adolf Hitler's political campaign. Subsequently, during the rule of the Führer, the company received enormous profits in return, one of which was access to inmates at Auschwitz who were subjected to grotesque scientific experiments to test the harmful effects of various chemical substances. Inmates at Auschwitz were used to test the effects of various chemical substances. 6. A forbidden love affair. There was a tale of forbidden love between a jailer and a prisoner that took place in Auschwitz, despite the fact that it sounds unbelievable. Franz Watch, a member of the SS, fell in love with Helena Citronova, a prisoner at Birkenau concentration camp, despite the fact that Nazi policies prohibited romantic relationships between Germans and Jewish people. It all began when she was coerced into performing a song in honor of Franz's birthday celebration. Hearing her voice had a total and utter hypnotic effect on him, and after that he began to provide her with protection. He demonstrated his affection for her by writing her love letters and providing her with additional food rations. She showed no interest in the courtship at all, but many years later, in an interview, she stated that after Franz rescued her sister from the death chambers, she changed her mind and grew to sincerely love him. Helena was forced to evacuate Auschwitz during one of the infamous death marches as the Allied forces approached the concentration camp, and after that, she and her husband did not see each other for another 25 years. In 1972, when Franz was on trial for the killings that took place at the center, Helena testified in his defense. As a result of her evidence, he was able to avoid serving time in prison. 7. Sonderkommando. One of the most terrible tasks that were carried out in Auschwitz was by the Sonderkommando, which was a group of convicts who were given the assignment in late 1944, after Germany had been defeated, to burn the bodies of those who had been executed in the gas chambers. As the revolt began on October 7, 1944, the members of the Sonderkommando prepared an escape strategy and stole cooking equipment in order to make knives and axes. This was done because they had heard rumors that they were going to be killed and were preparing for it. Despite the fact that several hundred criminals attempted to flee, the vast majority of them were apprehended and executed in front of the remaining prisoners as a means of instilling fear and discouraging future escape attempts. In addition to this, they were able to steal explosives from the military and use them to kill 3 guards and cause damage to the Ashwoods crematorium. 8. Rudi Haas. At the end of the war, the leaders of the Third Reich were brought to trial in Nuremberg, and Haas was accused of being responsible for the deaths of 3.5 million people in the gas chambers. He asserted that these accusations were untrue and that the population had been reduced to 2.5 million, with the remainder succumbing to the effects of the cold and hunger. Rudolf Haas, a member of the SS, was in charge of the Auschwitz concentration camp from 1933 to 1943. We appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. Please don't forget to give your valuable feedback in the comment area below. And if you want to learn about even more historical military wars, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll catch up with you in the following video.